Chapter 56. There was a bit of a typo with the locations of the places he's going to. Naya to Paradise near Reverse Mountain. Franz to West Blue. World News Agency to Paradise near Sabayati Archipelago. This is for you readers as a reminder. Mimic Fruit Ability Token. Permanently mimics one type of support ability from any devil fruit. Cannot be used to damage or fight enemies. You must have either the fruit itself in hand or the blood of the fruit user of the desired fruit to mimic the ability. One-time use. One type of support ability, meaning it will take a portion of the fruit's power, not the entire thing, and it cannot be used to inflict damage upon anyone. He has 3 of these at the moment. Damien POV. The split fruit is something that would greatly ease my plans. I have many things to do in so little time that having another trustworthy hand would surely help. I also intend on having a clone controlling the underworld while I am busy with the crew. After all, it is quite foolish to trust anyone else when we enter the shadows of the world. Other than that, being in 2 places at once is extremely useful in a multitude of situations. Sybil, display the fruit's mimicked ability once more for me and the lethargic readers. I ask. Here you go, she says in a plain voice. Split fruit Bunritsu no mi. Paramesha fruit release type. Fruit rating. Creates a clone with 80% overall strength of the user, can create clones based on total strength. Due to mimicking the fruit, the max clones created will be limited to 3. All skills except Ancient Voice can be copied to the clone. The skill Parallel Thinking may be used to switch between perspectives. User becomes a splitting human. The strength drop was not much of a problem. It's not like I intend to use them to fight in battle, as they would be too weak to do much other than being a distraction. I could use them like Pain did and see with 6 different pairs of eyes, but that is quite useless when you have observation hockey. That aside, I had Sybil find this fruit with the fruit locator gadget and found it in the West Blue nearly 2 years ago. Since then, I had the Falcon Division keep an eye on it. That said, just a year ago, some nuisance came upon it and ate it right away, becoming a splitting human. Some guy named Geronimo Francis or something, they call him the Divisor. Ahem, Damien, I believe it was Gemini Franz, the Divider. Sybil corrected me. Right. I honestly could care less what some Don Krieg wannabe does with his life, he won't keep it for long anyway. My lord, we are here. I wish you fortune in your escapades, lord. Please step on me, Great One. Well, I did have 3 sea kings pulling my ships, one of them was a bit odd but it is what it is. Wiles Bay, Paradise Sea. 3rd Pav. Oi, Baka. Take some men and get me that ship that's rushing here. I want it undamaged. Franz ordered. Hi. Baka responded as he got 15 or so men ready. The 6,000 or so men were also curious to see which fool would sail straight towards them, the future rulers of the West Blue. Look at this fool. Woo. He is already dead. To rush into the Viper's den, how brazen this one is. To be or not to be, he is condemned by these terrible seas. How tragic. Some pitied, some laughed, some smirked, yet not one of them had an ounce of fear, yet. Baka POV. Bakakakaka, Boss Sama, has given me an easy mission. But that boat thing is really cool, maybe I can relieve the boss on it as his hair dances in the wind. 10 minutes later. I took too many men, 15 of us sounds too much for some 16-year-old kid, though he has cool hair. 3 minutes later. Oye, kid, jump into the sea, and you can get away, otherwise, I'll take your life then take this ship. I yelled. Looking at him, he was a really handsome kid, perhaps I should sell him to those slave traders. I thought. The kid then opened his eyes. Red eyes. Creepy. What the hell, those eyes don't carry any fear. Is that pity? TCH, you brought this upon yourself. I was going to finish that sentence but for some reason, my vision changed. My eyes which were gazing at the kid are now looking straight up. What was that thud? Is that my body falling? Where's my head? Yawn. The 15 men on the ship were currently frozen as they eyed the cool-haired youth with great fear. Baka-sama. One managed to mutter, "Run." Another yelled as they came to their senses, their primal instincts to survive took over as they tried to dive into the sea below. Ping. Nani. One said as he looked down and saw red lines over his chest. Fizz. Sounds of pixelation buzzed as the 14 or so men's eyes widened as they suddenly turned into thousands of red cubes, clattering into the sea, sinking to the bottom. So many fodders grouped up. I suppose I can try that move, the youth thought out loud as he gazed at the 6,000 test subjects before him. Damien got up from his comfortable seat and stood at the front of his boat, his hands in his pockets as he gazed forwards with an expressionless face. The bay. Oi, oi. Did Baka-sama just die? Those guys turned into some red cubes and fell apart. Ability user. A fruit user. Franz squinted his eyes. TCH, all of you, focus your fire on that ship. He yelled. Franz knew the supremacy of fruit users and a part of his fodder instincts were telling him to immediately attack, otherwise he would certainly not like the result. Hi! They yelled. Guns, pistols, rifles, cannons, revolvers, spitballs, thousands of weapons were now aimed at the brown ship that gently floated in the sea. They couldn't fully make out the youth's expression, but his eyes seemed to glow red as they just looked at them without wavering. Boom. Bang. Phew. Bop. Kaboom. Zing. Whoosh. Thousands of small air explosions boomed off as each one of the gunslingers pulled the triggers, sending countless cannonballs and bullets rushing forth. Damien stood there, gazing at the oncoming fire with little change in expression and posture. He did not speak nor act, though a red mist diffused out of his body as wrapped around his boat. The ship was now glowing with a soft red coating as the projectiles made contact. Boom. A grand explosion. Bagagaga. That's ought to do it. Ability user or not, he's dead for sure. Furukokoko. They celebrated. Yet their laughs and joy froze as the smoke settled. Misaka. How could it be? Is this the power of a god? The boat, the youth, both were still there. Unaffected, unhurt, undamaged. Not even a scratch. My body could easily tank those bullets, but I don't want this ship damaged. A man who forsakes his ride is no longer a man, Damien thought. Pat pat. He then patted away some non-existent dust off his shoulders. Now then, he smirked. And in that instant, something happened. Damien's ever-crimson eyes seemed to glow even more. He slightly widened his eyes as the entire sclera turned an eerie red. Following that, a red mist started to exude out of his sockets as the air around it started to vibrate unceasingly. The molecules in the air were blasted into the void as the Sin incarnate grinned. Omega beams. At the drop of his words, two blitzing red beams of dense energy blasted out of his eyes, leaving behind a trail of exploding air and water as they rushed forth. VZZZZMM. Two beams of red energy were traveling at absurd speeds as they covered the little distance between them and the 6,000 living corpses. What is that red stew? The man was trying to finish his sentence, yet the red beams had already reached him. The moment they touched him, he turned into thousands of cubes and fell apart. Oye! A man yelled who was 30 meters to the far right of the dead man. VZZZZMM. The beams kept whizzing forth, bending, turning, elevating in all sorts of awkward angles. Ah! Run! Mama! Ah! Ouch! Endless cries of men erupted the seas as tens of thousands of inch-sized cubes rained down everywhere. 69.469, 0.969, 0.1969, 0.2069. The death count only increased as time went on. More than a third of Franz's fleet was dead in 10 seconds. Jump into the sea, one yelled, thinking he was safe below. VZZZZMM. The two beams suddenly turned straight down and zoomed into the sea, following the man. Quote. Did he make it? An optimist asked. Up. The water slightly bubbled as small cubes of red floated to the surface, turning relieved faces into scowls of fear. One man who was looking into the sea saw a red flash that shot out straight under him and popped him into cubes, yet the beams did not stop. VZZZZMM. 1 minute passed. The death count was around 5,300. The remaining men realized they could not swim away, so they instead ran ashore, trying to get as far as they could. And they did escape their fate, for now. I guess 600 meters is my current limit with the Omega beams. Damien calculated. It would take a higher mastery level to increase the range over his new attack. Franz POV. I was revered. I was worshipped. I was admired. Thousands of men sang my name. My ego was as wide as the west blue that I dreamed to rule. After eating that fruit, I was a god. But this, all my men, my power, my prestige, all of it was now broken into thousands of pieces. Literally. That youth, one attack and everything fell apart. Damien POV. I am now on the shore, my hands resting in my pockets as I lazily look at the countless cubes all over the ground. I guess it was satisfactory. I could now attack over a decent range that is bound to grow. The only thing was the Omega beams would only kill up those below Yonko commanders. Anyone stronger and it would either stun them or just cause decent damage. Satisfactory indeed, I said as I walked around. I then sense a presence to the far left. I saw a spiky red-haired man on the ground, he seemed a bit down. Hey man, hang in there. It's gonna be alright, I said as I pitied his current situation. I could see that he had a dream of great proportions. To destroy that dream, only a true friend could be so ruthless. Alright, everything is ruined, he yelled as he looked up with anger. You. It's all because of you. I will kill you, he roared as he stood up with renewed vigor. Splitting fever. Poof. 10 copies of him poofed beside, they were exact clones. Not bad. I nodded at the fruit's capabilities. Shanae. They yelled in unison. The 10 of them stood around me with equal gaps, covering every side. I shook my head as I saw his resolution. Don't worry, death isn't as terrible as they make it out to be. Believe me, I've been through once before. With that, the 10 copies lost their lights as they fell dead. The only ones left were the red-eyed youth and the red-haired living corpse. Stop. My family will hunt you down. You best let me live, Franz said as he slowly backed up, trying to maintain the little wisp of life he had left. Good for you then. It seems you'll have company soon. In hell, that is. I then, Flash stepped 2 feet away from him and gazed him in the eyes. I saw great regret in his eyes as I liberated his head from his neck. Spurt. Gallons of blood burst out in a crimson fountain as it rained down upon the vibrant grass. Thud. Some dust kicked up as Franz's body fell to the floor with lost brilliance, his head rolling around, eyes wide open, through lifeless. Death the greatest threat to any living thing. I squinted my eyes. No. Time is the real enemy. And it is something I refuse to bow down to. I was lost in thought until Sybil woke me up. Damien, you have 5 minutes left till the fruit leaves his body. Stop thinking so hard and mimic the ability before it respawns God knows where. Right, I best do that. As it happened to Whitebeard, the fruit seems to stay in the body of its user for a while before it reincarnates to the nearest fitting fruit. This was why Blackbeard was able to siphon it away even after Whitebeard's death. I picked up the idle head on the ground by the hair and heard a beep. Ding. The system has detected an ability that meets the condition of being mimicked. Proceed. Yes, no. Nodding with a smirk, I clicked the former choice. Whoom. A black wisp exited out of Franz's head and floated in the air. VWOOM. It seems to not be an object of this realm as it didn't even displace any air as it floated towards me. I raised my right hand as it was absorbed into my middle finger. A black substance flowed visibly through my veins as it went through my shoulder and into my heart. Ding. 1 Mimic Fruit Ability Token has been deducted. A new skill, Split, has been acquired. Congratulations. I smirked as I read the notification. Just like any devil fruit, once you eat it, you gain basic control over it as the information automatically flows into your mind. Split, X1. Poof. A smoke bomb exploded as a 9 feet 8 tall youth stood before me. How intriguing, I said. Indeed, he replied. How's life? Not bad, you. Rahaha, quite the same as you, or me, I guess. Rahaha, so, how's the weather? Ellipsis. A few minutes of useless chatter ensued. Hey, Sybil, how do I use my parallel thinking? I asked. Just concentrate your thoughts on your very being. You should feel a link to the clone and feel the path thereon. She explained. I closed my eyes shut. I stabilized my breathing. I brought my heartbeat down to 1 beat per minute. There it is. I exclaim as I feel a thread connecting me to something else, something beyond my body. I followed the thread as it went on. And, tears. Deep breath. Holy shit. It's weird to breathe with 2 sets of lungs. Both my bodies said, what the hell? This is weird. I looked to the left, my other body did the same, it was really odd. I could feel 2 hearts beating in unison. I then close my eyes once more and concentrate, this time I focus on only one end of the thread. Ellipsis. My eyes open as I smile in satisfaction. Very good. I nodded. I had fully split my conscience and could think from both bodies. It was odd yet felt natural. I guess multitasking is no longer a myth for me. Well, I might as well use this to my advantage. I had other plans to complete, so I left a few tasks for my clone. I wanted him to work on refining my bones. It was the added ability from my Titan vitality that allowed me to essentially coat my bones with armament hockey to the point it turned into eternal black, aka black bones. It took the same idea as black swords like Yuru and Shisui. Once a blade goes through countless battles, it will turn wholly black. This would be enough to increase its grade by 1 level. If I could apply this to my bones, then my defense would explode. As for how I would harvest the training of my clone, it wasn't a shadow clone that would poof away and allow me to regain the learnings. That would break the few laws of physics that still remain in this world. I would instead have to recombine with the clone to get the upgrade once he is finished. The process of attaining these bones is lengthy, so it would certainly take a while. Till then, I will be sailing on. One last thing. I then sent a stream of solid pulverizing energy to my eyes and VZZZZM. 2 beams of destruction raged out into the island beyond, bending, twisting, turning in all different angles as cries of pain followed every said turn. The remaining 600 who had stopped in relief were now broken apart into countless cubes. As they say, always finish what you start. I then went back to the boat. Alright, take me back to Paradise Sea. Chapter 57. Drifting in the seas for days is so damn boring. Sybil, play a song that properly encompasses One Piece. I asked. Alright. Minami no Shima wa. Atta ke musical note. Atama Pokopoko musical note. Aho Baka musical note. Kita no Shima wa musical note. Samui musical note. Atama Buruburu. Aho Baka musical note. A song truly worthy of praise indeed. If you don't know this song, then I don't know how you could call yourself a One Piece fan. Clone POV. The art of black bones requires constant coating of armament. Applying it to my bones was a bit difficult. Pretty much I need to coat it first in hockey, then apply extreme stress over them for extended periods of time so the armament starts seeping into the very marrow of the bone. Now to stress my bones, I had to be a bit creative. Some may even call me an M from what I did. I started off jumping off cliffs, using fruit dials to fall from thousands of meters to the ground. I also tried to crush the bottom layer of a mountain so that it would crash directly onto me. I also swam to the bottom of the ocean to have the water pressure crush me apart. And it worked. Ding! Your physique has reached the stage of black bones. Congratulations. Based on what Sybil has said, black bones has 3 stages. Black bones. Stage 1. Armament hockey has been absorbed into the outer layer of the bone, dyeing it black and has increased overall endurance by a factor of 2. Stage 2. Armament hockey has been absorbed into the inner layer of the bone, increasing overall endurance further by a factor of 3. Stage 3. Armament hockey has been absorbed into the core of the bone, dyeing it entirely black and has increased overall endurance by another 3 times. So a maxed out black bones would increase the structural integrity of his bones by 18 times the initial amount. I have attained the first stage quite quickly, but the next stage will take at least a few weeks, and even more for the last stage. Progress is progress. Main body. Aho Baka musical note. I was drifting away as a roar entered my ears. Grade 1, we will arrive in a few hours. Jimmy alerted me, to which I nodded. It had been about 8 days since I left. Traversing the reverse mountain once more was quite fun. That said, the island I was journeying to was called Fulljack Peaks. It was a large island, around 7 kilometers wide. What was it known for? The absurd amount of mountains it had. Supposedly, the island is 95% mountains. Nothing but a jagged hell with mountains 2/3 the height of the Red Line. It was a smart location to put a top-secret facility with great importance. The World News Agency's main HQ was carved within the largest peak, around 5 kilometers above sea level. It is also covered with snow and rather difficult to scale. Cipher Pole 10 is stationed at the neighboring peak, constantly keeping watch over all activity at the news agency. I was initially shocked by their number. After all, only CP0 to 9 existed in the future, and the 10th squad was never a thing. That aside with the control over the flow of news, the world government is truly superior to any other power in all the seas. Narrator POV. While our lovable red-eyed youth was lazing around his ship nearing his destination, a new set of news was sent out from the exact agency he was headed to. Gambino family destroyed. Closing square bracket. The newspapers sent out were rather astonishing, since usually news from the outer seas does not flow too far, yet this one piece of news had made it even to parts of paradise. The paper was regarding that the Gambino Mafia family's executive. He was known as Franz the Divider, who brought together thousands of men under his name. With this, he had amassed a force of over 6,000 soldiers, readying their advent through the world. Yet just 8 days ago, the entire fleet was utterly obliterated by a single man on a single boat. Supposedly only one man was spared to tell the tale, of which he reports that the perpetrator was a young, black red-haired male with piercing red eyes. Said male was responsible for annihilating the entire fleet within minutes. The youth was identified as Sin Incarnate Damien, of the Rocks Pirates. Many wondered why such a powerhouse would appear in the West Blue. Reasons aside, it filled the remaining 4 mafia families with complete dread as they pulled back all forces and hoped for the best. Fooljack Peaks, Paradise Sea. Damien POV. VWOOM. A little warp-like noise resounded as I packed up the sea skimmer into my inventory. I look up and see the island. Snow and mountains. That's about it. My observation was currently around 2.2 kilometers in every direction, which is 4.4 kilometers in diameter. My future sight was nearing 6 seconds beyond, a good amount. Spanning my hockey, I can observe quite a few living beings. Animals, shrubs, some birds, a small village. Unfortunately, since the HQ was 5 kilometers up, I could not sense it yet, but again, every problem has a solution. I take out a little shell. Fruit dial, currently storing 5 charges of float fruit. I had restocked the charges form before, it costs 400 SP each. I point it at my heart and bling. I feel free of gravity. My body starts rising as I concentrate and gain control. Time to go on a hunt, I thought as I zoomed through the air. 23 minutes later, I found Utilda. I cackled as I see the metallic platform covered with huge amounts of snow. It was around 30 meters in width, pretty much a sheet of metal. There was a single door to go in and out, with guards on the inside. The CP-10 base was around 800 meters to the far left, I could sense around 60 men in there. CP-10. 1 high-tier Yonko commander. 4 low to mid Yonko commander figures. 55 fodders. I could deal with them, theoretically, the only nuance was the terrain. I have never fought over snowy mountains like these, so it would be interesting. Well, not that I will fight them, yet that is. My plan right now is the following. News Agency Liberation Plan. Goal: have the agency exit out of the world government's grasp. Steps: find Morgans. Get Morgans to join the agency. Corrupt the 4 directors by influencing them with ancient voice. The influence will gnaw away at their hearts and balloon over time. This way, the CP agents will see no noticeable change to report. Over the period of 1 year, the idea of exiting will only increase in their psyche and will eventually be brought up in a briefing. All directors will agree. Spontaneous order sent out to leave the GOAT. CP-10 goes crazy and tries to fix things. I swoop in and deal with them. Spread the news immediately so the government can't do shit about it. Exit is successful. Morgans take over. Keep news non-biased with some bending so World GOAT does not try to replace but rather cooperate with a new agency. Slowly reintroduce previous, hidden, news about the world and spread tales of the Rocks Pirates. Time limit: 1486. I could just use ancient voice to command them in CP-10, but that would alert the government further. They will eventually send an admiral who would be able to see the tampering with their minds and destroy my plans. I need it to be a progressive manipulation so that the people will also support the idea of liberation, forcing the government to agree. Now to begin the corruption. World News Agency HQ. Currently, the agency has around 600 members in their main HQ. Each one has been through numerous checks from CP, making them quite trustworthy. The entire agency of news is led by 4 men, aka the 4 directors. Chad Bizarre, Newman Bradley, Vais Al-Linne, Marcus Goji. Each one of them is shrewd and calculating, having spent decades manipulating the news for the government. They have already been promised huge benefits as long as they continue their work. The main topic brought up nowadays by the four men is regarding the situation with pirates of the New World. Four crews in specific lately. The Rocks Pirates, the Roger Pirates, the Prideful Pirates, the Valkyrie Pirates. Crews aside, they have also classified the major threats in all crews, even beyond the ones listed above. Rocks D. Zebek, Edward Newgate, Shaki, Charlotte Linlin, Gall D. Roger, Silvers Rayleigh, Escanor and 3 others. These names are ranked 1 on the threat index with Zebek and Roger being at the top with the rest below. A.N. Practically all the current Yonko level pirates. From the 3 others, you may know one while the other 2 are OC. The ranked 2 threats have their own list, but a far longer one. Includes MC. That aside, today was a briefing to discuss orders from the government and how to proceed further. Director's briefing room. 4 men sat around a large, square table. 1 on each side. Each seemed to be around 50 to 60 in age. Chad Bizarre, Newman Bradley, Vais Al-Linne, Marcus Goji, the 4 directors. The government wants us to further bend our work regarding any crew in the New World. Bizarre. Right, we have already set up a week-long delay ever since what happened on Sabayati. Bradley. If we want to go even further, we could easily just blame a different crew to start limiting the words regarding Rox and Roger. Linne. Che, bend even further How tiring. We should just ignore them. Who cares anyway? Strong tides, crazed winds, abrupt earthquakes, just blame the world for their feats and people will slowly forget them. Goji. Yes, B.U. Bizarre paused as he heard the door open. Creak. Step step step. A 5-foot-tall reporter waltzed in. How dare you interrupt our briefing? Who is your supervisor? Linne yelled. The trespasser simply smiled as he stood near the table. His eyes suddenly glowed red as he spoke up with hesitation. D. Directors. I believe we should put an end to manipulating the news. Huh. Which fool raised you? One yelled. Pete, please, just listen to me for a second. The youth asked. And listen very closely. The voice changed from a shaky and fearful tone to one that was magnetic to the very soul. Each word, each letter, each syllable carried an air of gravity that would anchor the mind of its listeners. The 4 directors entered a sleep state. Their minds were awake yet their souls were asleep. You could enter any thought into their mind and it will forever stay within their thoughts, while they remain oblivious to it. 20 minutes later, a 5-foot-tall youth jumped off the peak of the mountain and gently floated down to the surface below. His body creaked as it grew nearly twice its size as red streaks of hair flooded down the left side of his head. Damien POV. Now that that's done, I can go and do some other stuff. I thought as I continued to float down with my fruit dial. I had left a single thought in their minds. Essentially put, I aimed my influence at their very core as a reporter. As in the ambition of their youth, when it wasn't poisoned with money, corruption and other luxuries, but rather their passion for news they had as a child. It will eat away at their guilt and over a year or so, they will break down and bring up the topic. With Sybil's calculations, it will take around 11 months for the guilt to overwhelm their desire to please the Gorosei and everything will fall into place beyond that time frame. Few minutes later. This will do. I thought as I found a cave around 1.5 kilometers below the agency, I would be able to encompass both the news agency and CP-10 base from here. Now then. Split, X1. Poof. A small explosion of smoke as another clone of myself stands before me. Parallel thinking, split conscience. My conscience once again splits as I feel 3 different paths of thoughts in my head. One in this body, one jumping off a sky island near Wiles Bay and the one in front of me. I nod at the clone and he nods back. Time to leave. I used the remaining fruit charge and floated back to the surface below. Vroom. The sea skimmer popped up as a few sea kings came to pull it along. The clone was left here to look after both the agencies to ensure nothing rails away from the course I set up. He will stay here for around 11 months till the day of reckoning and allow me to constantly have an eye on the news agency. While also sharpening my observation hockey in the process. I nod in satisfaction. I now have one clone working on Black Bones and one ensuring that the World News Agency exits the government's grasp while the main body will go elsewhere. Jimmy, take me to the Mortem Island. Author's Corner. So, the news agency will exit in about approximately 1 year. He cannot just post full lies either, otherwise, the government will just make their own agency. As long as it is somewhat unbiased and the president is willing to bend at some points, then they will allow it, as seen with Morgan's. Of course, Morgan's will bend here as well, but to MC's orders. Chapter 58. Hey Sybil, is there a way to travel between my clones? Like Sung Jin Woo does with his shadows? I asked. To gain the training of the clones, I had to recombine with them, which could be a bit annoying to do as traveling by ship is quite time-consuming. You cannot teleport to them, but there may be a way to go around that. As you said, through shadows. Since your conscience is connected with them, it is possible to go into your shadow and out the ones projected by the clones. But this requires you to either mimic a shadow-type fruit or have the help of another person who can manipulate an element that is associated with darkness. She said. So, I could either waste a mimicking token to save time or have another person with darkness-type fruit to do it for me. I think I have someone who'd fit perfectly. I thought as I recalled a certain person from the past. That aside, the next island I wish to visit. It's called Mortem Island. It is situated in the Paradise Sea, around 10 days away. It's been a while since I saw him. I wonder how much progress he has made over 16 months. I smirked as I remembered him. Mortem Island. Opening parenthesis question mark. POV. Ah. So sleepy. 3201. So tired. 3202. So fatigued. 3203. So exhausted. 3204. So lethargic. 3205. So weary. 3206. So drowsy. 3207. So drained. 3208. So sleepy. 3209. I sighed again and again as I continued to push my body up from the plank position, a boulder resting on my back. I woke up at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. No matter how long I have been waking up at this hour, I just can't get used to it. What kind of sadist makes you wake up so early? There should be a law against this. Sleep at 12, wake up at 8. Che. How unreasonable that guy is. Rawr. Oh shut up, Johnny, I remark as the Green Sea King berates me for slowing my workout. How did that guy even tame these guys? They literally do one thing for over a year and a half and still don't get bored. 3210. 3211. 3212. 3213. ... Rawr. Awoo. Re. Nay. Roar. Chirp. Meow. Woof. Huh. What with all the commotion? Oye. I'm doing it all right. Just stop that noise. I yell as I quicken my reps. Rawr. Awoo. Re. Nay. Roar. Chirp. Meow. Woof. Ah, these damn things. Did they go crazy all at once? Are they hungry? Che. I click my tongue as I throw the boulder off my back and onto the ground. Thud. Causing a mini shock around the area as I stood up. Rawr. Awoo. Re. Nay. Roar. Chirp. Meow. Woof. I sigh out loud as I slowly walk to the edge of the island and see what was going on. I saw sea kings, horses, lions, beasts, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and many more animals all looking south while yelling their throats out. How about we all sleep for the day? I asked as I understood their stress. I guess even beasts get cranky this time of the day. What is that? I was looking in the far distance as I see a silhouette of some ship-like thing come in my direction. A ship, I thought as the details cleared up. A weird ship. A fast ship. A cool ship. As for the passenger, black red hair, piercing red eyes, laid-back attitude. Is that Damien San? I couldn't help but smile as I saw him. I mean, the man was crazy for sure. But I guess being in that crew would make anyone crazy. I may dislike his absolutely horrible and tortuous training routine, but he did save me from being sold away to someone who might do some Lord knows what. Maybe they would make me sleep only 5 hours a day, the horror. Rawr. Awoo. Re. Nay. Roar. Chirp. Meow. Woof. Yeah, I got it, I said as I still had no clue why these beasts were so excited. Are they paid actors or something? That aside, the guest had arrived. I saw his face, it had certainly matured from what I remember, plus he got taller. Like a lot taller. Yo, Kuzan. It's been a while. An island in the New World. What is that kid up to now? Shaki wondered as she read the notes from her intelligence agency. What did he do? A ginormous man asked from across her. Yufufu, he went to the West Blue and destroyed one of their top mafia families. She answered. Oh, that kid always made some weird moves. From the New World to the West Blue and then he wants to go to Wano. Gurara. Whitebeard laughed. Newgate, did Zebek say anything? A golden-haired man asked as he floated from the sky and onto the ground. Zebek is still at Death Valley. But I have noticed that the seas around that messed up island have grown a lot more chaotic. Whitebeard answered. If that crazy guy awakens his fruit then the Navy is doomed, Jihahahaha. I bet the moment he comes out, he will wage war against Marineford itself. Shaki thundered out. Yufufufu, knowing Tycho he probably would do that. Shaki smiled. But now we need to do as he asked. Whitebeard nodded with a plain face. He wants an army and we have been recruiting one for the past month. Puff. Shaki puffed out. A cloud of smoke. At first we had around 2,600 once Linlin joined, now we have 4,000. Many are still afraid of our reputation for killing our own, but our numbers will continue to increase as long as greed exists in the hearts of men. Jihahaha. That's right. But it would be easier if we add some more fuel to the fire. Shaki said in a mysterious tone. Whitebeard raised an eyebrow. What are you scheming, Shaki? Jihahaha. I say we lessen the competition. That Escanor is a problem but his pride does not allow many to join. But there is that other crew we can destroy. He said. Shaki comments. Shaki-kun, are you talking about the Valkyrie pirates? That's right. Many pirates end up going to that woman as she knows how to pull the hearts of the weak to her mercy. If we eliminate her then we can take in all of her armies as well. Shaki concluded. Whitebeard grumbled as he heard his offer. Do as you like, Shaki. I have my own plans. He said. Che, you should dream more, Newgate. We are pirates, he declared with his haki flaring around. I will only listen to Zebek. If you want to wage war then go ahead, just don't get in my way. Golden Lion, Whitebeard said with his aura shooting back. HMPH. Shaki clicked his tongue. Fine, be passive as always, Newgate. I'll go with Linlin and destroy the Valkyrie pirates myself. Whitebeard has already gotten up and left. He seemed to be looking for something as he made plans to leave the area. Shaki-kun, try not to lose too many ships in your war. We have only a few, the shipwrights at Miriam Island can only make so many ships. Shaki said. Yeah, just keep me and the rest updated with Zebek's training, he said as he walked away. Shaki was sitting with a cigarette, puffing away. Puff. I suppose another storm is about to rage. She thought out loud. Narrator POV. From that day on, a new and lasting war will begin between a combined attack of two titans of the Rocks pirates, aiming to dethrone a powerful crew in the neighboring seas. The Valkyrie pirates are a large group of friends with over 16,000 pirates under their flag. The leader, Pirate Queen, Herja, who ate an incredibly rare fruit, leads them. It was the human fruit, mythical model of the Archangel. With this, she grew wings upon her back and gained the secondary ability to manipulate light itself. Her strength can already match that of the Golden Lion, and the evil spirit as she, like the other two, is also listed as a rank 1 threat by the world government. An island in the New World. Third POV. The ground was shattered. Ruined lands and broken shores, cracked earth and weeping forests. Two people stood facing each other. Go on, kid, show me how much you have improved. The tall man yelled. The one who was talking had casual clothes on as he feasted away on rice crackers. You shitty old man, the other one grumbled. Shitty old man, is that how you speak to your father? Take my fist of love. He roared as he bonked the living soul out of the youth. Ah! The youth cried as he held his head in his hands, scowling at his father. Che, I already told you to leave me alone. The one yelling was naturally Dragon, currently wearing ripped and dirty clothes with some skiffs on his body. Is this how you talk to someone scolding you? Garp yelled as he grabbed the boy by the collar and raised him. Crackling electricity. Though the youth's hand suddenly flashed yellow at that moment, a strong charge of electricity was discharged into the Vice Admiral's body. Dragon escaped from his father's hand and jumped 10 meters back. Ouch, ouch. That hurt, brat. Garp complained. Don't lie, Dragon muttered as he saw his father. With no damage at all. Wahahaha. Kong-san told me you were acting up. Is this what they call the rebellious phase of a teenager? Garp thought out loud as he scratched his head. Of course, this comment did not escape Dragon's ears. Enough of your jokes, old man. You know exactly why I'm pissed off. Garp audibly sighed as he looked at his son with some hesitation. Dragon, you should know that there are some things out of our hands. Our justice cannot save everyone, but we should save as many as we can. Garp was gritting his teeth as he said this. It seems a part of him was disgusted by his own words. Dragon saw his father's reluctance. I know, but I can't. I can't look away. Not after what happened with that celestial dragon I escorted. Listen, Drago. I can't listen anymore. I have looked the other way too many times. This is not my justice. At that moment Dragon yelled out with all his heart. All the emotions and the reluctance walled off by his hesitation started to flood out. A green burst of willpower exploded out of the youth as his rebellious eyes glared at his father. Haoshuku Haki. I suppose it was only a matter of time. Even though I lost my will after his mother's death, I guess my son will carry it on for me. Garp thought as he felt his beloved son's unwilling gaze. Of course, he would never say it out loud as he liked being petty with his child. Garp raised one fist. FWMM. A lustrous black shined all over the fist as it shook the air around it. Don't yell at your father, you brat. Bonk. Asterisk. The fist of love slammed onto the unyielding child as it sent out endless vibrations running all around his skull, making him collapse immediately onto the ground. Tch. Dragon clicked his tongue as he held his head, which had a giant bump protruding out. Enough about that brat. I trust you will choose the right path. But until you make your choice, you are still a Marine. Garp said. Dragon slightly nodded. What's up? Are we going to hunt someone? Garp grinned. Hee, that's right. But not we, only you. I only came to make sure you don't piss Kong-san off anymore. Dragon got up from the ground and asked in curiosity. Who is my target? Garp put on his vice admiral coat as he started walking to the docked ship. The man slightly turned to look back and smirked as he said. Kaido of the Beasts. Author's Corner. Do you think Zebek should wage war against the Marines once he is awakened? I did alter Garp so that he lost his conqueror's haki when something happened with his wife lover. I won't explain further, but maybe it was a choice between his beloved and his job and he chose the latter, losing his will. As Whitebeard said, someone will carry on Roger's will, Luffy, someone will carry on Ace's will, Sabo, and now Dragon will carry on Garp's will. Dragon is also very close to officially leaving the Navy. Chapter 59. Mortem Island. Damien POV. Yo, Kuzan. It's been a while. I said as I walked ashore. The kid was wearing simple clothes. Blue t-shirt and gray pants with black shoes. He also had his iconic eye cover raised above his forehead, waiting for any opportunity to snooze. Damien-san, you finally came. I felt like I was going to die if I had to sleep in these woods again. The boy complained. Rahaha. Don't worry, seeing your energy I guess I should increase the intensity of your training. I said as I scratched my chin. This is child labor. Someone ought to throw you and impel down. Kuzan yelled as he said in an annoyed yet fearful tone. You shouldn't say such things about the one who saved you, kid. I said as I raised my left fist. Bonk. A clean smack on the head always works. I nodded as I polished my fist via my clothes. Ow, ow, ow. Kuzan cried as he held his head, a big bump forming over it. Now come, let's go find a more comfortable spot to chat, I said. 10 minutes later, the both of us were now sitting around a campfire, Kuzan on a log across from me. I didn't expect to find some here, I said in surprise as I saw 3 beacons of different colors light up from afar. My fruit sensor has only found a few fruits after I left my home island, and most were not worthy of speaking and were recycled immediately. Right now, there were 2 orange beacons and 1 yellow. Kuzan was eating lunch as I looked over his stats. Kuzan. Age. 8 1/3. Height. 5 feet 6. Devil fruit. None. Fruit rating. Haki. Strength. Paradise Pirate level 3. Kuzan equals Mr. 2. Alabasta. For a child less than the age of 9, this is quite impressive. Strength-wise, he was actually on par with me when I was 8. I guess that makes sense. I trained him the same way I trained myself at this age, with neither of us having a fruit. His body is not like mine where it can upgrade again and again, which is why I had to ensure his early training would increase his potential. And it did. His body was quite durable and tough. Psst, Damien-san, he whispered. What? Is it all right to eat sea kings in front of Cyrus like this? I mean, he is a sea king too. He asked. Cyrus is the sea king who looked after Kuzan on the island. Rahaha. Don't worry about it, if I asked for it, he would be honored to be my meal. Though it is a bit weird to think about. I said while I ate some meat too. So, Kuzan, you remember what I told you before I sent you off on Cyrus? I asked him. Munch, oh right, Munch, you said, Munch, you would give me, gulp, a gift if I meet your expectations or something. He said as he finished another Sea King leg piece. I nodded. Right, and now that the time has come, it's time to test your learnings, I said. Even though the system will generate a stats page and all, it doesn't factor in mental capacity. Many with strength might cower away and be useless. That is why I had him fight beasts daily to ensure his mind is sharpened as well. Kuzan nodded, though he seemed quite excited. I guess just like any child, he wants to make his guardians proud. I smirked at his expression. Eat now though. You have to eat to get tall. 20 minutes later, the two of us stand in an open clearing in the forest. There was a 20-meter gap between us. Here I go, he remarked as he shot forth. Quick steps. He was quite fast, running around 60 kilometers per hour as he was already before me in 1.2 seconds. FWOO. A quick rustle in the wind as he jumped into the air, taking advantage of his smaller frame. He spun around and delivered a right kick aimed at my throat, with enough power to decapitate a normal human. Bam! The kick connected, the top part of the foot slammed onto my neck causing a small boom to resound. Kuzan grinned but then seemed shaken. Hee, did you think that would actually wound me, Kuzan? I asked him with a smirk. HMPH. He grunted as he flipped backwards. Quick steps. He sidesteps to my right. I guess he was trying to go after my non-dominant side. He slightly bent down and used a roundhouse kick to my face. Bam! This time, I caught his foot with my hand as I didn't want to make him feel too bad. After all, no matter what he does, he simply cannot penetrate my defense at his current strength level. Come on now, I urged him as he once again pulled back. Bam! Bam! Boom! Bop! He rained down a flurry of punches and kicks all over my body, yet every single one was dodged with simple observation. He was struggling but did not give up. Grab! He squatted down and grabbed some dirt with his left hand. Leaping up to my eye level, he shot his right hand out, which was caught. He then swiped over his left hand and threw the handful of dirt in my face. At least he isn't too foolish to fight fair with someone 100x stronger than him. I nodded. The dirt was about to impair me but a red light shined as each grain of dust turned crimson and fell to the ground. Ah! He was caught off guard as I drove my right fist into his stomach. Roll, roll, roll. The child ended up rolling a few times till he got back up with some blood streaming out the corner of his mouth. Hee, not bad, but I hope that isn't all you have. I said cryptically as he didn't seem too down from his failure. Che, try this then, he roared as he bent to the ground. I used my observation and saw his foot muscles and arm muscles constrict as if he was gathering energy for a final attack. His feet then flashed a bit as they kicked the air in the way. FWOO. A sharp displacement of air caused a sound as the boy shot forwards, going at least 100 km per hour as he was already on my left. He clenched his right fist and drove it straight onto my left cheek. Boom. A loud boom resounded as a powerful hit smacked me dead on. Ha, hoo, ha. Kuzan's breath was erratic but he was smiling as he felt proud of his strike. But that smile turned upside down as he saw me smile, his fist pushing on my cheek, yet failing to leave behind a single scratch. That's unfair, he cried in HMPHED to the side. Thud. He then collapsed onto the ground for some reason, his breathing growing heavier. I was smiling just to be petty but was shocked inside. This kid actually made his own. Soru, and simple, same Kiken. Though each was lacking and lost a lot of energy while executing the move, it was astonishing nonetheless. I concluded. I then turned to him. Kuzan was huffing and puffing. I guess those two techniques overdrew his stamina as the backlash kicked in. The boy seemed quite down. He was trying to hide it, but I saw him slightly gritting his teeth in frustration, his hands shaking in sadness. I smiled at his childish behavior, but it only made sense. He is a kid after all. Kuzan, I called out. He looked up with a hint of fear. Perhaps he thought I was angry from his failure to hurt me. Crouch. I squatted down to match his eye level and smirked. I moved my right hand towards his head, causing him to flinch. Poke. Though against his expectations, he only felt a sharp tap on his forehead. I tapped his forehead with my right index and middle finger, gently pushing his head back. Don't look so down. If anything, I am quite content with your progress, I said while nodding in appreciation, causing him to widen his eyes. Of course, if it weren't for me, you'd be a loser sleeping all day long. I nodded with my eyes closed, teasing him further. Che, he clicked his tongue, though with a childish smile plastered to his face. Snap. I snapped my fingers as the sound echoed through the forest. Vwoo. A shake in the air as the trees around us converge and form a few chairs to sit on. Kuzan was once again sitting across from me, with an excited expression. He looked like a kid who was waiting for his parents to open a gift box for his birthday. I chuckled at his expression and said, all right, color me impressed. Your progress has exceeded my expectations, so naturally, I will hold my end of the bargain. He giggled as he waited. I shot out my right hand and held it mid-air, palm facing upwards. Kuzan's eyes were glued to my hand. Sybil. Yup. A blue flash of light glowed in my hand as a single fruit appeared out of thin air from my inventory. Ice fruit, no mi. Logia fruit, elemental type. Fruit rating, star. Allows the user to create, control, and transform into ice at will. Allows the user to practically negate the greatest weakness to fruit users, water. Though lacking in overall destructive power, it makes up for it by controlling a powerful element. User becomes an ice human. The description popped up as I recalled the stats from a while ago, back before when I was still at my home island. Kuzan's eyes widened as he looked at the beautiful fruit before his eyes, still in my hand. It was an apple-shaped fruit with a purple stem. Sharp blue scales all over it. Blue swirls printed all over. Devil fruit. He muttered. I suppose he has never seen one before. That's right. Do you know the 3 types of fruits, Kuzan? I asked. He nodded. The weird ones, the elemental ones, and the animal ones. His words caused me to chuckle as I corrected him. Well, you're right. The weird ones are called Paramesha, the elemental ones are Logia, and the animal ones are zones. Do you know which are the strongest? I then asked. Kuzan thought for a second. I heard the others saying that Logia are the strongest types and also the rarest. I nodded. Yes, Logia are generally considered the strongest out of the 3 types, but not necessarily the rarest. I didn't go into mythical zone as their powers were debatable depending on the form itself. This fruit is a powerful Logia type fruit, the ice fruit, I informed him. Kuzan's mouth turned into an "oh" as he heard me. This is a Logia. Yep, you want it? Gulp. Can I have it? Sure. Really? Yeah. Are you sure? Nod. 100% sure. Quote. At that point, I looked at him with an annoyed face. If you don't want it, then I'll save it for someone else. No, I want it. I'll take it. He panicked as I started to draw my hand away, much to my amusement. Here, I tossed the precious fruit towards him as he fumbled. He then brought it towards his chest and covered it with both hands and looked at me with a peeved face. Does he think I'm going to take it back? I smirked. Eat it quickly. Make sure to eat all of it. I said, laughing on the inside. One bite is all it would take to gain the power, but caused my sadistic side to awaken. He nodded eagerly as he brought it near his mouth. Munch. Quote. Ow. This tastes horrible. He grimaced as he slowly chewed on the chunk he bit off. Rahahaha. I burst out laughing as I saw a kid acting as if he was trying to gorge down some crappy medicine as fast as he could. He groaned as he finished the fruit. He stood up to his feet and closed his eyes. Freezing sounds. The ground under his feet slowly creaked as a thin layer of ice spread out around him. Everything within 7 meters of Kuzan was now frozen. He snickered like some third-rate villain. Seeing his face, I couldn't help but bonk him. Bonk. A black fist slammed onto his head as the child fell onto his rear, grabbing his bruised head. Ow. My head. You'll pop it. He cried out. He then paused and blinked his eyes. Hey, you said it was a Logia. I smiled, then walked to the side. I grabbed a pebble from the ground and whoosh. The rock shot out and shatter. Kuzan looked in amazement as his chest shattered into ice as the rock went through. Creaking ice. The ice shards floated in the air and converged back to reform his body. Sugoi. He yelled out as he felt the supremacy of a Logia. Something I had to look out for. Kuzan. Don't get arrogant now. Don't you want to know how I was able to bonk you while that rock didn't even hurt you? I said, causing him to think. Right, how come your punch still hurts even though I am ice? He asked. I nodded at his question. Logia wielders generally become their own element and gain intangibility from all things. As in no normal matter, apart from their opposing or negating element can touch them. But since I am not a heat-type fruit user, I should not be able to hurt you. Yet that was not the case. I then show him my fist. FWWWWM. A cool sound erupts as my fist blackens with a gleam, causing Kuzan to widen his eyes. This is called hockey in the color of arms, or simply, armament hockey. With this, I can cancel out your or any other Logia user's intangibility and use it to hurt them. I said. My words caused Kuzan to nod in understanding. Good kid. I was glad of his maturity. And this hockey is used by many people beyond paradise. Every person with decent strength would have this. Now, these words caused his eyes to widen in surprise. You are not invincible as a Logia, but you have nigh infinite potential with it. I want you to remember to never get cocky with your powers, as it will bite you in the back. Can anyone learn hockey? He then asked. I smirked. Yes, but it is quite difficult to awaken. But you are not ready for hockey. I will teach it to you when you can handle it. Until then, you will train both your body and fruit power. Kuzan nodded but then seemed a bit perplexed. How do I train my ice powers? All powers have a few main components. Strength, versatility, stamina cost, range, strengths, weaknesses and so on. The strength will increase as your mastery over the fruit grows. Versatility increases with your imagination. Logia is great in this department. Stamina cost is a big one. Intangibility might not cost you anything, but using any other fruit power does. You will need to improve this with your body. Range is attributed to mastery. The strength of ice is huge, especially when it comes to naval battles. The weakness would be heat-type attacks. As your mastery increases, the heat required to combat your ice will also increase, so remember that. As for the rest, you will learn it yourself as you understand your fruit. I conclude my lengthy summary. Kuzan was nodding through and through, committing each point to memory. Damien-san, will you be staying here for a while? He asked with some shyness of a child. I was a bit surprised at first. Kids do need someone to socialize with to grow. I should be more considerate. I berate myself. I then looked at the Kuzan who seemed a bit nervous. Yeah, I'll be here for a while. He smiled, then frowned at my next sentence. Of course, I have to ensure you don't skip any of your workouts. After all, it's time to increase their intensity. Mwahaha. I laugh as I look at his defeated expression. Well, get some rest now. Your body is tired from the earlier battle. I told him as he nodded. He reached up to his forehead and pulled down his eye cover. Snore. And asleep. This technique of insta-sleep, it would have come in handy when I was in school. I sighed in regret, remembering the torture of my past life. Woo. I wave my hand as some wood pops out from beneath and make a softer bed with some leaves nearby. Now then, let's go check out what fruits are on this island. I thought to myself as I started zooming towards the nearest beacon. Though a certain voice picked up. Oni-san has been waiting for you, Damien-kun. Author's Corner. As many have guessed, Damien intends to bring Kuzan into his crew, so naturally, he deserves a chapter of his own. Plus, I almost forgot to put in some childish attitude, since he isn't even 9 years old yet. He is a lot more matured to his past, but a kid nonetheless. Random trivia. If you were reborn in One Piece, would you want Shanks' Haki or Kyoto's Nigh invulnerability? Tell me in the comment section. Let's see how many viewers watch this fanfiction. Chapter 160. Oni-san has been waiting for you, Damien-kun. I paused in my steps. Good to see you once more, young one. Damien boy, you lost your virginity, I raised you right. Damien bro, what's good? Young Master Damien, this humble one greets your excellency. Even though you take more after Madara with those eyes, I am still proud, Hashi said. A collection of voices flooded from literally everywhere. Alice, Bob, Bill, Yoda, Ling, Hashi and hundreds more. I was pleasantly surprised. You guys waited to greet me, thanks. I smiled knowing that they let me complete my talk with Kuzan first rather than interrupting me. Tilda I hope you are this gentle when you take my innocence, Alice said. Begone Alice, your words only corrupt the boy. And you don't even have a sheath for his sword. Bill berated the orange tree. Nature was fluid around me. I felt at home. The trees were slightly waving around, the grass was dancing, the flowers were singing. It reminded me of times when things were simpler. Hee, it's nice to hear your voices again, everyone. Become strong you have, be in your favor the tides have. Now, Yoda-san, spare my bro here from your wisdom, Bob interjected. I could only chuckle at their conversations as I continued to make my way to the fruits. 20 minutes later. There were 3 beacons. 2 orange and 1 yellow. In other words, 2 paramesha fruits in one zone. And so I gathered them. Paramesha. Drug fruit. Allows user to produce narcotics from their body. These can be used to inflict a multitude of effects on your victims. Paper fruit. Allows user to turn any part of their body into paper. Zone. Dragon fruit. Ancient model Pachycephalosauras. The paramesha were alright but the zone was an ancient type which is quite the find. I believe it was supposed to be eaten by Ulti of the future, but it's in my possession now, not bad. I stored them in my inventory, probably going to give them to my division mates. Few hours later. Nay, Damien-san, will you teach me any new techniques? Kuzan asked with some anticipation. I nodded, I will teach you a marine technique called Soru. You have already discovered it somehow as you showed it to me yesterday. I go on to say, I will also teach you, Geppo, of the Rokushiki. The other 4 aren't really that useful for an ice logia. Kuzan nodded. But I will make you go through hell training now. I say cryptically. The poor boy gulped as he asked, it wasn't considered hell for the past 16 months. To which I laugh, rahahaha. Those were just some basic bodybuilding exercises. But, what about fruit training? He asked with hope. I chuckled evilly, we'll squeeze it in somehow. If anything, we can just cut down on your sleep time. No. 7 hours later. A bruised and broken Kuzan stood in the middle of the field. I had given him a 2-hour break and instantly the boy fell asleep. Heck, he was so tired that he didn't even bother to lie down, he just hit the shutdown button and boom. Sigh, what a drama queen. I shook my head as I saw him snoring away. Now, my training. I plan to stay here for a while. As for Wano, I have estimated I will be there for a few months, but before I venture onto the land of samurai, I want to accomplish a few things. Max out my black bones. Attain full body hardening to its maximum power. Align my armament with my fruit power. Molda. Mount. Visit Mihawk. Well, the first 3 were quite necessary. Ryu is the advanced form of armament hockey, so before going for it, I would like to first wholly understand normal hockey. I also want a mount. As in something that I can ride. Honestly, do you know how slow travel by boat is? This world is 90% water. If you remove the red line, it would be even more. And to jump on a ship to travel, it takes eons. My Sea Kings may be quick but it's still time consuming and would be much easier to travel by air. So I have decided to make a mount. Plus, it ups my prestige. Whitebeard and Shanks were laid back so they didn't mind the slow travel. Big Mom had her homies for transport and her giant monster she rode on as well. Kaido is his own mount. Now, how do you create a mount? I intend to use grand imagination and use my pulverization energy to create some sort of flying creature. The problem is that it still needs to work with the laws of aerodynamics, so it might take some time to make. Either that or I will try to find a flying mythical zone fruit and feed it to an animal and use that instead. I also want to go meet my favorite swordsman in training and see how he's doing. These will probably take up 6 to 7 months, beyond that will be Wano. I will leave a clone with Kuzan to ensure nothing happens here. Summary. The main body will work on the fruit-released form. Clone number 1 will focus on armament Haki and black bones. Clone number 2 will focus on observation Haki and ensure the news agency plan works as planned. Kuzan will go through hell and hopefully live to tell the tale. 4 days later. For what I was about to attempt, I had traveled to a nearby island for precaution. Full body armament. FWWM. My entire body was shining a vibrant purple as every part of my body was coated with armament. I was trying to reach Pika and Virgo level armament. Did it work? Kinda. I had fully coated my body. But the coating itself was weaker than my normal coating. So if I hardened my fist, the fist would be at least 30% more powerful than the Haki around my body right now. It wasn't great, but it will do for now. Now, the next step. I will have the raging energy in my heart as the gates containing it are opened. Huge volumes of crushing energy seep out and head in every direction. Boom. The area under my feet started to boil away. The air was screaming in pain. The nearby terrain was reduced to rubble. My body felt hot. I was now releasing all my fruit power out of my body. My pores were leaking pulverization energy as they started to concentrate together, becoming a liquid-like substance. The red mist took a more malleable form as it bubbled all around. The color grew darker and darker. I was but a mass of dark crimson energy with some black mixed in. Sybil, begin calculations. I command. Right away. She replied. Empyrean form. Damage multiplier. 4x. Armament Haki integration. 64%. Drain rate. Well above desired amount. Lost energy factor. 23%. System remark. Can be greatly improved. I had decided on a name for this form. Empyrean, usually thought to be the highest place in heaven, a fitting name for the sin incarnate. Just like Luffy's gears, all my attacks are improved by a certain factor after entering this form. It can reach 6 times without emission or infusion, but it is only increasing by a factor of 4 at the moment. My armament Haki is only 64% integrated. As in, 36% of my attacks will lack the increased damage gained with Haki in the color of arms. Since my drain rate is above what it should be, 17% of my power, how pathetic. With all these combined, as the system has said, my form can be greatly improved. Well, time to test. The damage itself. I reel in my fruit release a bit so I don't destroy the entire region itself. Before me was a 20-meter tall boulder. I walked towards it and gently touch it. Collapse. The entire rock suddenly glowed red and turned into countless cubes as it was brought down to dust. Each cube was roughly 0.01 millimeters or 1 micrometer. Collapse was the second form of crush. Since the attack is multiplied by a large factor, I chose to change the names. I then clench my fist as the red energy sizzled in it. FWOOO. The air groaned in agony as I flashed forth and slammed my fist into a 200-meter tall hill that was nearby. Greater collapse. Second form of all crush. Boom. The large hill was instantly blown apart by my attack, rubble flying off hundreds of meters as it slowly broke apart into tiny pieces. A large brown pit was left behind as the structure was no more. Very good, I nodded. I turned my attention far left. In said direction, around a kilometer away was a mountain. The mountain was 400 meters tall. If Garp can use 8 mountains to test his strength, then I suppose I can try it too. This can also show me the difference in strength. Mountain are always greater than 300 meters in height. I dashed towards it, leaving behind a shredded trail as my body was releasing too much energy for the ground to hold. Let's try the weapon configurations. Since I reached the advanced mastery over my fruit, I had made 3 different configurations of weapons. One that uses the basic idea of my power to crush things, a warhammer. 2. One that imbued the idea of destruction, a vanquisher. 3. One that would give me an advantage over distances, a work in progress. Vwoo. A decent volume of pulverizing energy was sucked out and led to my left hand. Each particle of crushing energy was molded and converged into the item of my imagination. Crusher configuration. And there it was. A 10-foot-tall warhammer materialized in my left hand in all its glory. The warhammer itself was sharp on one side and blunt on the other. The blunt side was the one with the real power. The entire weapon itself was a mix of black and red. The black was me using armament hockey to form the frame, and the crimson was the crushing energy that filled in. A terrible drawing of the crusher configuration. I twirled the warhammer in circles as the wind started to flow with it, creating a current. I was now 50 meters away from the mountain. I was still rushing ahead. The momentum built up was quite significant as I leap into the air. I then grip the handle with both arms, left above the right, and hold the weapon so that the head is behind my left shoulder. And, boom! The blunt side laced with pulverization energy slammed onto the mountain as the crushing energy flowed endlessly out, drilling its way into the mass of earth. Cracks formed all around the impact point as a red circle expanded from it. All the things within the circle started to turn into small squares as the circle kept on growing and growing. The energy blowing out of the impact had already caused the nearby land to be blown away. Slowly but surely, the entire mountain had turned into a red blob of earth, and if you were to look closely enough, the entire mountain seemed to be a puzzle made up of billions of small cubes. Shatter. One final push on the hammer and instantly the entire structure started to collapse. The entire mountain fell apart, region by region. Boom. One final shockwave was sent out due to the impact. It waved out in all directions. Trees, rocks, hills, everything was shaking as much of it was destroyed. And then everything was covered in dust. And it finally cleared after 3 minutes. Passed. The mountain was gone. Literally no longer there. A 400-meter tall glob of earth had been pulverized fully. Not bad. I then turned my attention to another mountain of lesser height, around 320 meters tall. Vanquisher configuration. The red energy in my arm starts to liquefy as it flows around my body, forming another weapon. It had a reddish-brown handle connected to a thick guard with a solid sword body made of hockey, which then extended to 2 claw-shaped blades at the front that was glowing red as crimson mist exuded from them. It too was quite large, around my height and length. The weapon was constantly pulsing with energy that matched the one releasing from my body. Rumble. The air radiated as I raised the weapon in both hands. I was holding it diagonally as the blades were above my shoulders as I readied myself for a slash-type attack. Slash. Thundering sounds. A slashed down the Vanquisher as it cut the air apart, sending forth a diagonal arc of dark crimson energy as it ravaged the earth before it. Shatter. As the attack went on, it created a ravine before it as the land was cut alongside its wake. The arc of red neared the 320-meter tall mountain as it collided, earth versus fruit ability. Boom. A cataclysmic sight as an eerie red overpowered everything in sight. The original blue morning was now nothing but a red dawn as the attack continued to cut through the mountain. Rumble. A loud explosion followed by a powerful vibration over the ground as the giant hill was cut clean in half. No, a 10-meter tunnel opened in between it. All the earth that was once there had been reduced to microscopic sizes. A once beautiful island was now permanently scarred as half of it was utterly destroyed by a raging pirate. Empyrean release. I breathe out a large volume of air as the air calms down around me. The ever-quaking ground settles and the wind stops howling. I guess that was decent. If you were to measure those 2 attacks, it would have been enough for at least 3 mountains had they been next to each other. So I can currently measure up to 3/8 of Prime Garp's casual strength. Around 38%, the keyword is Garp's, casual, strength. I look around and see the destroyed land. Good thing I didn't do this on Mortem Island, otherwise it would have been bad for Kuzan. I thought as I readied a ship and left. Author's Corner. I feel like I'm focusing on his training too much, but if I did it between his fights then it would mess up the flow, so I'm bringing it in here and throughout this volume. He will fight a powerful foe in this arc to fully test out his strength before going to Wano, a marine. Honestly, I haven't thought about his third configuration for his weapon and just leaving it for epiphanies. Heck, I might just stick to the 2 weapons he has right now.